Character cannot be developed in ease and quiet. Only through experience of trial and suffering can the soul be strengthened, ambition inspired, and success achieved. Helen Keller. My journey to becoming a big wave rider has not been an easy one. My ascent has been neither glamorous nor quick, but since I was a small boy, I've longed to stand on water. At age 37, having spent the first half of my life building a career, I chose to walk away from it. I had decided that the legacy I wanted to leave for my children and grandchildren was not that of a successful photographer. No, the legacy I wanted to leave was that of a dragon slayer. I'm named after the Scottish mountaineer Dougal Paterson, who made some of the most daring ascents in alpine climbing history. He was the wild man of his generation, who died at age 37 trying to outski an avalanche. My dad and grandfather had been explorers too. My deepest fear was that I would never become the man that my name was calling me out to be. I grew up with a deep longing to be tested and found true of courage and character. But where I lived, there were no more wastelands to pioneer, nor ice-clad peaks to scale. To me it seemed there were no more dragons left to slay. I felt displaced, as if I'd been born too late. It was only when I began to ride waves at dungeons on the blunt tip of Africa that I began to feel a connection to my father and grandfather's legacy. Out amongst those great tumbling cathedrals of salt and water, I found my place of belonging. I crossed the bridge from sleeping to wakefulness. I took up my inheritance as a dragon slayer. Having only started to ride big waves in my late 20s, I found myself behind the learning curve. Sorely lacking in skill, I quickly became a student in the school of hard knocks. My learning seemed to come in reverse. I had to learn how to survive a ferocious flogging by 20-foot waves before I was able to start riding them. What I lacked in skill, I made up for in true grit and desire. This road has been marked by many trials, long periods of injury, and deep, deep frustration. It was out amongst these lands of the rolling wet hills that I discovered what I now call the thin places. Those places in the physical realm were the envelope between this world and the next. Thins. In those thin places, I found that the proximity of possible death most affirms the life that is within me. I have found friendship in the thin places. With the help of my wife, my daughters, and some wise friends, I finally began to understand what it is that gave me my unique value, purpose, and meaning. No longer happy to be defined by what made me money, I'd begun to follow in the steps of my dad and grandfather. So I went after big waves with everything in me, and I applied myself to fully understanding the watercrafts that I was riding. All the while I trained my body and mind whilst riding bigger and bigger waves. As my skill increased, I saw a larger transformation in my life. I found that I was able to translate my courage and confidence back into my roles as a husband, father, friend, and mentor. The fire that had almost burned out was once again a blazing furnace.
Goodness gracious me! Look at the size of that thing!
Dungeons is one of the few geographic locations on Earth where you're able to paddle into waves of that size. I returned to Dungeons for the thin places. In those thin places, it's the proximity of death that makes me feel most alive. I returned to Dungeons for the fear.
Ooh, get over the ledge. Come on, son. Yes, please. Oh!
namesake Dougal Paterson was a deeply flawed man, my name serves as a reminder that true courage lies in the depth of character, personal integrity, and selfless acts of service. We are all broke down melodies, and surfing alone can never change that. But for me, riding giant waves alchemized the process of redemption in my life. I now believe that we all have an inheritance that is uniquely our own. My hope is that my story encourages you to go after your inheritance, no matter what the cost. Join the tribe on your next adventure in Africa.